Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. If you want to join me on my live stream, stuff should be live streaming soon, check out Good Free Photos channel. That's in the link in the description below. And also check out my other channel, Crypto Daily Updates. One great crypto update every day with all the news for the day. So check that out. So we're going to talk about why the pandemic and the recession has actually helped crypto. Well, the upcoming recession. We all know one's coming. Let's just get that out of the way. All the economists on CNBC say it. I believe them this time. And I think we're heading there. So let's actually go over the several reasons why there's a big silver lining and crypto is gaining popularity and credibility during this time. It has nothing to do with the actual pandemic, but it has to do with the effects of the pandemic. So one thing is small countries are panicking and they are actually using crypto. Venezuela, Argentina, and plus several other small countries, maybe in Africa, are actually looking to crypto because their economies were already doing pretty bad. Their fiat currency doesn't have nearly as much backing. People don't trust their fiat currency. And now the pandemic basically just hits them like the last nail on the head, and their fiat currency might be falling apart a little bit. So because of that, and they don't have much support in the first place, they're looking to a more stable currency. Now, they could use the US or euro, but the problem is those countries don't really have access to the US or the euro all that easily. At least maybe their governments do, but their people don't really have that readily access. And they want money to buy stuff, they want money to save stuff, and they want to get money to their families fast from outside the country. So they're mainly going to use Bitcoin, maybe other cryptocurrencies as well, but generally, from what I've heard, mostly Bitcoin. So they are turning to Bitcoin as like the de facto currency in their country. The governments are trying to stop it because they want to support their own fiat currency, or in Venezuela's case, try to raise another crypto. But essentially, like, their people are choosing Bitcoin over others. So that's one reason why crypto is gaining credibility, and there's the silver lining. The other one relates to that, which is faster payment systems. You know, fiat has a lot of fees, and it's very, very hard to actually transfer fiat to some of the smaller countries. And even the larger countries, it could take days to actually transfer fiat over. And people don't like the fees or the slow transfer rate. Bitcoin takes about half an hour, XRP takes a few seconds, XLM takes a few seconds. You know, any third generation crypto essentially takes a few seconds. I know like Cardano and all of those are working with Africa. So essentially, like, all those coins are better than fiat for transferring, and people are finding that out. Plus, so some governments might be taking a cut of USD, and you can get around the governmental sanctions for countries like Venezuela and Argentina with Bitcoin. Because, you know, governments, you can say the US government's corrupt, but honestly, like, those governments are 10 times more corrupt, and they'll siphon a lot of funds away if you're trying to send via USD to your families in those countries. Whereas if you use Bitcoin, they can't really disrupt the network. Now, they don't like that, so they're trying to shut it down. But, you know, a lot of people are actually using it because they're just seeing it as a better option. And the governments can't really stop that and they don't like it because then they can't take their cut in the payments. So that's another thing that we need to be aware of. The faster payments, less fees, and circumventing like government cuts of corruption. That's what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies can actually do. Now, there's the other side of that where people use it for like money laundering and tax evasion, but that's another issue altogether. The ability to, you know, cut out the middleman in cryptocurrency appeals a lot to the smaller countries. Now, in the US, we're not really going to be using cryptocurrencies for transactions that fast. Our credit card system actually works pretty well. We don't have as many problems, nearly as many problems as the smaller countries. But the smaller countries, you know, because their fiat currencies could actually be devaluing extremely fast, and because their governments, if you actually send like Western Union, could take their own special cut, they're going to actually want to adopt cryptocurrencies much faster. The third thing is countries' debt. Now, for small countries, this is a real problem, like Greece, Cyprus, countries like that. But even people are looking at the debt like the United States and saying, oh, high debt, bad. Now, I think most people just have a really bad misunderstanding of US debt because it's not as bad as it actually seems. Most of our US debt is actually domestic debt. Like something like 70-75% is domestic debt. That's owned by US citizens themselves. Only about 25% is foreign debt. And honestly, Other countries owe us more than we owe other countries. So our debt position in terms of foreign debt in the world is really not that bad. Yes, we owe China like $1 trillion, but like Europe owes us a lot of money as well. So the ins and outs, honestly, our foreign debt's net positive because we owe other countries 6-7 trillion. They owe us about 9 trillion in return. And in terms of domestic debt, that's basically owing money to yourself or to your citizens. So there's always ways to actually manage that. And the thing about printing is, yes, they can print as much USD as they want because there's so much demand for USD. Yeah, there will be a glut of it after this is over, but they can just raise interest rates and fix that. I don't know if they will because that would actually have an effect on the economy, and I'm not really sure whichever administration is actually in office will be willing to sacrifice a bit of economic growth for long-term prosperity. My guess is no. So we might have a problem in the future. But right now, printing USD and like hyperinflation in the United States isn't really a thing. And it's not really going to happen anytime soon. But that doesn't really, the reality and the academics of that doesn't really matter to people. Most people just say, oh my God, $26 trillion in debt, bad, must abort to, cryptocurrency for those that actually believe in cryptocurrency without actually understanding the macroeconomic situation and implications of, the outside debt. So because most people really don't understand that, and they actually see governmental debt the same way as personal debt, which is not the same thing at all. Like your government owing another government $1 trillion is not the same thing as you owing your friend $1 trillion, especially if your government and your army is the most powerful army in the world. See, like if you actually owe, the local gang like $1 trillion, they might just come and kick your ass, but because they can. But if you're Terminator and you owe them $1 trillion, which the U.S. is basically like Terminator T-1000, they're not going to be all about coming over and kicking your ass because if they try to, they're going to die. See, so if you have the biggest army in the world, and if you're essentially Terminator or T-1000, or Chuck Norris or whatever, they're like the local gang is not going to come and try to kick your ass and take the $1 trillion because they don't want to die. So that's kind of like the position the U.S. is in. Yes, the U.S. can be kind of a bully country because we do have, first of all, other countries owe us more money than we owe them. So, we can use the interest they pay us to actually pay out other countries. That's one thing. And two, no one's going to really come over and take over our country because, our army will kick their ass. So, you have to take that into consideration and look at the power and macroeconomic implications of everything. But people just look at the big debt and they're like, oh, debt bad, must go to cryptocurrency. At least some people will, especially some people, true believers of cryptocurrency. They're trying to spread that belief. It's a wrong belief, but that does have that psychological effect, and it could actually make people go to cryptocurrency. The one real thing is going to zero or negative interest rates, because people, like, one of the reasons people put money in a bank is for some kind of like profits. The real reason people put money in a bank is actually for safekeeping. It's not to earn the 2% interest or whatever. And interest rates have been low for probably the last decade or so, decade and a half. So people don't really expect much out of a savings account or even a checking or savings account. But the thing is, if you go negative or if you go to zero and there's nothing to earn, or you're paying the bank to keep your money, that's very different, because there's plenty of these DeFi projects or staking that you can actually earn like 4, 5, 6, 7, even up to like 15% interest on cryptocurrencies. And those are going to attract more and more people as your interest rate plummets more and more. That could honestly be a reason why eventually they actually have to return the interest rates back to like a historical norm of maybe like 5%, just to stave that off, because there is going to be competition in the future with virtual currencies. But right now, with the interest rate being so low, that is another incentive for people to switch to cryptocurrencies to make some profit off their actual monies, to make money work for them. So negative interest rates or zero interest rates is another reason during this recession, because they're lowering interest rates like crazy to try to stave off recession. They're not going to be able to stave it off. Recessions and good times are cyclical in an economic cycle, and we were going into the recession part of the cycle anyways in a year or two. The pandemic basically just sped it up. It's nothing abnormal, and it probably deepened it far worse than it actually should have been. But that's just a cyclical pattern that they're trying to avoid, and they're going to be quite unsuccessful in trying to do so. The last thing is Wall Street investment. Wall Street's catching on, guys. Like Grayscale Capital, like Galaxy Digital, and other funds are actually springing up, and there's more and more approved funds, and people are investing into cryptocurrency. Yes, it's mainly just Bitcoin and Ethereum that the big boys are actually investing in, but that's still a lot of progress. Bitcoin and Ethereum, excellent. And with that, eventually they're going to invest in more cryptocurrencies outside of that. So, those things, if Wall Street's into it, that means it's not going away. And by the way, a poll just showed that 66% of Europeans think cryptocurrencies will still be around in 5 or 10 years. So no one's really expecting it to go away anytime soon. So the thing is, like, if Wall Street's investing in it, if they've got a lot of money in it, and rumor is they actually own about 360,000 Bitcoin. So, they have some money, they have billions of dollars in it. So there's a lot of strong support, both in Wall Street and in Congress now, for cryptocurrencies. And I think that will actually keep growing as cryptocurrencies' influence actually keeps expanding. So for those reasons, small countries using it, faster payments, debt, people looking at debt going like, oh no, debt bad, negative interest rates, and Wall Street investments. That's why cryptocurrencies is gaining relevance, and that's how the pandemic is basically helping cryptocurrencies gain relevance, because it actually speeds up the process of all those things. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. Thank you, and have a nice day.